You ever get that feeling that someone's always watching? Not the paranoid kind, not the creepy kind. Just that quiet awareness that eyes are on you. Every move, every word, every choice. You start to act different, don't you? Stand a little straighter, speak a little sharper. It's strange, isn't it? How people behave better when they think they're being seen. They call it pressure, but it's not. It's accountability. It's that invisible reminder that someone's paying attention, even when you think you're alone. Because the truth is, when you believe no one's watching, that's when most people fall apart. That's when they lie, cheat, quit, hide. But when you know they're watching, really watching, something in you wakes up. Something that refuses to break, because now you've got something to prove. Awareness shapes behavior. Funny thing, isn't it? People like to believe they're honest, disciplined, strong. But only when someone's looking. The second the lights go out, the masks fall off, and you see what they really are. Awareness, that feeling of being seen, it changes everything. It's like a mirror that never blinks. You start to adjust yourself, your tone, your habits, just because you know you're not invisible anymore. You stand taller. You think twice before you act. You clean up the mess you'd normally ignore. Because deep down, you know someone might be watching. And that awareness suddenly makes you better than you were a second ago. It's strange how fragile people's morality becomes when they think no one's watching. They cut corners, they lie to themselves, they whisper little excuses like it's harmless. But the truth is, awareness keeps people honest. It's not fear that fixes them, it's attention. When you feel eyes on you, when you sense the weight of being observed, you act differently. Not fake, focused. You start caring about the little details, about the image you project, about how your actions echo. Awareness forces you to confront yourself. Because it's hard to lie when you know someone might be catching every move. There's a reason cameras change people. The moment that red light turns on, people straighten up, they smile, they play the part. But when the lens turns away, most collapse back into chaos. Awareness shapes behavior because it drags the truth into the light. It's not about pretending. It's about realizing you can't hide forever. When someone's watching, even if it's just in your mind, you start becoming the version of yourself you wish others would see. You stop making excuses and start acting with intention. Awareness turns chaos into structure. It turns impulse into choice. People love to preach about being yourself, but most don't even know who that is. You only meet your real self when you realize you're being seen. When every flaw, every mistake, every word can be noticed, that's when your true instincts show. Do you crumble? Do you fake it? Or do you rise? That's the power of awareness. It pulls your character out from behind your comfort. You can tell a lot about someone by how they act when eyes are on them. But you can tell even more by how they act when those eyes vanish. The ones who stay consistent, who keep doing what's right even when no one's around. Those are the ones who've learned to carry awareness within themselves. See, awareness isn't just about others watching you. It's about you watching you. The world has taught people to behave only for applause, only for approval. But the strongest kind of awareness is internal. It's that silent voice inside that sees everything. Every lie, every hesitation, every missed opportunity. You can fool people, but you can't fool yourself. The mind keeps the receipts. And once you start listening to that inner observer, you stop needing anyone else's eyes to keep you straight. That's when awareness becomes power. Awareness makes people uncomfortable because it strips away their illusions. You can't play innocent under observation. You can't pretend you didn't know better. It corners you into truth. It forces you to ask, who am I when someone's watching? And even worse, who am I when they're not? The difference between those two answers tells you everything about a person. Most people only act right when they're being graded. The rare ones, they live like someone's watching all the time, even in the dark. That's integrity. That's strength. The awareness of being seen changes how you walk through the world. Suddenly, your words matter, your actions have weight, your decisions echo beyond you. You realize everything you do leaves a trail, even if nobody mentions it. And that realization, that someone somewhere might remember what you did, keeps you grounded. It keeps you human. Awareness reminds you that you're never completely invisible, that your choices shape not just your image, but your reality. It turns living into something deliberate, not accidental. The moment you forget you're being watched, by people, by time, by consequence, that's when you fall. That's when shortcuts start to look smart, lies start to sound harmless, and failure starts to feel normal. But when awareness is alive in you, every move becomes sharp, intentional. You start respecting your own standards again. You start caring about the person you're becoming, not just the person people see. Awareness doesn't cage you, it wakes you up. It shows you that you were never just acting for them. You were training for you. It's funny how the simple act of being aware can turn weakness into control, chaos into precision. People think awareness makes life harder, but it doesn't. It makes life clearer. You see the patterns, the temptations, the traps. You see yourself, and once you see yourself, you can't go back to pretending. That's the quiet curse of awareness. It changes you. You start to live like the world is a mirror, and every action you take reflects who you really are. Accountability awakens discipline. It's amazing how people claim they want to improve. But the moment someone holds up a mirror, they flinch. Everyone wants progress, but nobody wants to be seen falling. Accountability feels like judgment to the weak, but to the strong, it's oxygen. It's the thing that keeps you from drifting into the comfort of your own lies. When you know you'll have to answer for what you do. When you realize someone might call you out if you slip. Suddenly, you start caring about the little things. You start showing up on time. You start finishing what you start. You start building a version of yourself that can stand without excuses. Without accountability, people rot in their own potential. They get lazy, soft, full of good intentions but no execution. They talk a big game, but they never deliver because there's nothing pushing them to. No one to disappoint, no one to prove wrong. That's the thing about humans. They behave better when someone's watching. They rise higher when there's pressure, when there's risk. Accountability forces you to keep promises you would have otherwise broken. It's not punishment, it's structure. It's the thing that separates the ones who dream from the ones who do. Discipline isn't something you find. It's something you build, one uncomfortable choice at a time. And the foundation of that structure is accountability. You need that voice, external or internal, that asks, did you do what you said you would? Without it, discipline turns into theory. People love to say they're disciplined until the alarm rings at 5 a.m., until the plan gets hard, until nobody's watching. That's when accountability whispers, you said you would. And that whisper becomes louder than your excuses. The world tells you to be independent, to not need anyone, but even the strongest people answer to something, a goal, a standard, a promise. Accountability doesn't make you weak, it keeps you honest. Because left alone, the human mind is a professional negotiator. It bargains with comfort, with fear, with laziness. It says things like, I'll start tomorrow, or I've done enough. Accountability doesn't let that slide. It drags you out of bed, out of denial, out of the soft lie that discipline can exist without pressure. Most people run from accountability because they mistake it for control. They think it limits freedom. But it's the opposite. It gives direction to your freedom. Without it, freedom turns into chaos. A million choices, no consistency. Accountability focuses you. It sets boundaries between who you are and who you're pretending to be. It doesn't care about how you feel. It cares about what you said you'd do. That's the part that stings. It exposes your inconsistencies. It forces you to face the gap between your words and your actions. And for most people, that's unbearable. You ever notice how people talk about discipline like it's a talent? Like some people are just born with it? Nonsense. Discipline grows where accountability exists. You can't build muscle without resistance. And you can't build discipline without responsibility. Someone has to remind you when you're slipping, even if that someone is you. The best accountability isn't external. It's internal. It's that part of you that refuses to tolerate your own excuses. That voice that says, no, this isn't good enough, even when nobody else would notice. That's the real coach. The one you can't lie to. Accountability doesn't have to come from people. It can come from your vision, your purpose, your promise to yourself. Every time you break a promise, you weaken your own trust. You make your word worthless. But when you keep it, when you stay true to it no matter how small, you become solid. You stop needing validation because you know you're dependable. You know you can count on yourself. That's real discipline. Doing what needs to be done long after the feeling that started it is gone. And accountability keeps that fire lit when motivation dies out. Most people don't realize how close they are to greatness until accountability steps in. Because accountability doesn't care about your comfort zone. It doesn't let you take shortcuts. It demands consistency. And consistency is where transformation lives. You don't grow when things are easy. You grow when you're forced to keep going, even when you'd rather stop. Accountability doesn't make life easier. It makes it real. It strips away your excuses until all that's left is effort. And effort, repeated long enough, becomes discipline. Accountability makes you predictable in the best way. You become the kind of person people can trust, the kind of person who doesn't just talk, delivers. That's rare. In a world full of talkers, the disciplined ones stand out like fire in the dark. They don't brag. They don't explain. They just do. And everyone else wonders how. But it's simple. They've made themselves answerable. They've accepted the weight of expectation and turned it into power. They've learned that the moment you stop needing to be reminded, you've become unstoppable. Accountability awakens something deeper than motivation. It wakes the part of you that's tired of being average. The part that's done breaking promises. The part that knows talk is cheap and only action counts. Once you start living by that code, once you let accountability become your shadow, you stop fearing discipline. You start craving it. Because you realize that every bit of pressure, every ounce of responsibility, every standard that feels heavy now is the very thing keeping you from falling apart. Closed mouths kill purpose. That's the tragedy no one talks about. Not the failure, not the rejection, the silence. The quiet surrender that happens when someone has something burning inside them, but never lets it out. People think death comes in a moment, in one dramatic instant. But no, it's slower than that. It happens every time you swallow your words, every time you let fear win, every time you stay silent when something inside you screams to be heard. That's how purpose dies. Not with a bang, but with hesitation. It starts small. You tell yourself, not today. I'll say it when the time's right. You convince yourself the world isn't ready, that you're not ready. You dress it up as patience, as humility, but it's really fear wearing a mask. Fear that they'll laugh. Fear that you'll fail. Fear that you'll stand out and they'll tear you down. So you shut your mouth, nod, smile, and let another piece of yourself rot away in the dark. You tell yourself it's safer that way, and maybe it is, but safe isn't alive. Safe is slow poison for purpose. People are born with voices for a reason, not just to speak, but to create, to challenge, to express something real in a world built on pretending. But somewhere along the way, they learn it's easier to blend in than to be heard. Easier to agree than to argue. Easier to stay quiet than to risk being misunderstood. And so they trade their voice for comfort, their conviction for acceptance, and they wonder why they feel hollow. You can't fulfill purpose while playing invisible. You can't change anything while staying silent. Closed mouths don't just kill purpose. They kill connection. You can't inspire anyone by hiding what you believe in. You can't touch lives if you're afraid to speak truth. Every word you don't say, every story you bury, someone out there misses the chance to hear exactly what they needed. You think your silence keeps you safe, but it keeps others lost too. Purpose doesn't live in what you think. It lives in what you do, what you say, how you move. Silence might protect you from judgment, but it also locks away your potential. You ever see someone living loud, unapologetic, and think, I wish I could do that? That's the version of you your silence murdered. The bold one. The fearless one. The one who didn't need permission. They're still inside you, gasping for air, while you keep pretending it's not the right time. There is no right time. There never will be. Waiting for the perfect moment is just another form of hiding. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your truth. Raw, messy, unfiltered. Because that's where purpose breathes. People don't realize how expensive silence is. It costs you your confidence, your dreams, your destiny. You think you're buying peace, but what you're really buying is regret. Long-term, quiet, soul-crushing regret. One day, you'll look back and remember all the times you stayed silent when you should have spoken. All the chances you let slip away because you were afraid of the noise. And you'll understand that silence isn't golden. It's a cage, a beautiful, polished cage built from your own hesitation. The world doesn't reward the silent ones. It never has. It rewards those who dare to speak, even when their voice shakes. Those who stand up and say something real while everyone else hides behind politeness. That's where purpose comes alive. In defiance, in risk, in the rawness of being heard. You can have the best ideas, the biggest heart, the strongest will, but if you never open your mouth, none of it matters. No one will ever know who you are. And maybe that's the cruelest part. Being alive but never seen, capable but never known. Closed mouths don't protect dreams, they suffocate them. They bury them under layers of what, if ifs and almosts until you start believing you never had them in the first place. You forget the sound of your own voice. You forget the fire that once made you want to scream. And eventually, silence becomes your identity. You convince yourself you're calm, humble, patient. When really, you're just afraid. Fear disguised as maturity. Silence disguised as wisdom. But deep down, you know. You know what you should have said, what you should have done, what you should have fought for. You can lie to the world, but not to yourself. The truth is, your voice isn't just for you. It's for the people who can't find theirs yet. It's for the ones who need to see that courage exists, that it's possible to speak and survive. Every time you open your mouth and say something real, you give someone else permission to do the same. That's what purpose does. It multiplies. But it can't multiply if it's locked behind silence. You have to let it out, even when it's messy, even when it hurts, even when it scares you, especially when it scares you. Closed mouths kill purpose, because purpose demands expression. It doesn't live in thought. It lives in action. It doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in confrontation. And every second you choose silence, you're choosing safety over significance. That's how dreams die quietly, in people who had everything they needed, except the courage to open their mouths and use it. Truth demands a voice. That's the thing people forget. Everyone says they love the truth, but the moment it starts to burn, they hide. They want truth when it's clean, polite, wrapped up nicely in something they can digest. But truth isn't soft. It's jagged, sharp, and uncomfortable. It doesn't whisper, it screams, and it demands to be spoken, not buried under fear or fake smiles. The truth doesn't die when people lie. It dies when people stay quiet. That's how corruption grows, how injustice breathes, how mediocrity survives. Not through lies, but through silence. Most people know the truth. They just don't have the guts to say it. They carry it around like a secret, tucked deep inside, afraid that if it ever gets out, it'll ruin everything. And maybe it will. Truth breaks things. Relationships, reputations, illusions. It tears down the pretty walls people spend years building. That's why they hate it. Because truth doesn't care about comfort. It doesn't care about how fragile your little world is. It only cares about being known. You can bury it, deny it, laugh at it, but it waits, patiently, because sooner or later, it finds a way to be heard. People think speaking the truth makes you strong. It doesn't. It makes you vulnerable. Because once it's out there, you can't take it back. You can't hide behind it or reshape it to fit what people want to hear. You stand exposed, raw, human. That's why truth demands a voice. It needs someone brave enough to carry it, even when it costs them everything. And it always costs something. Acceptance. Comfort, sometimes even peace. But what's the alternative? Living in a lie. Pretending just to keep things easy. That's not living. That's pretending to live. The truth has a funny way of haunting those who suppress it. You can lie to everyone else, and maybe even convince them, but you can't lie to yourself. That quiet unease you feel at night, that restless mind that won't shut off, it's truth knocking. It's the reminder that you've swallowed something you weren't meant to. Because truth isn't meant to be digested. It's meant to be released. The longer you hold it in, the more toxic it becomes. It starts eating you from the inside, piece by piece, until you become just another version of what you swore you'd never be: fake, hollow, compliant. You ever notice how people who speak the truth are always the villains at first? They're the crazy ones, the rebels, the ones who don't know their place, until time proves them right. And suddenly everyone forgets they were hated for it. That's the price of truth. You get crucified before you get crowned. People don't like being confronted with reality, especially when it shatters the lies they've made peace with. They'll call you arrogant, insensitive, even dangerous. But deep down, they know you're right. They just can't admit it. Not yet. Because admitting it means they'll have to change. The truth isn't just about facts. It's about integrity. About saying what needs to be said, even when your voice shakes, even when it turns people against you. It's not about being right. It's about being real. There's power in that kind of honesty. the kind that doesn't try to please anyone. It's dangerous because it exposes everything fake around it. And once truth shows up, lies start to rot. That's why people fight it so hard. They know once it's spoken, there's no going back to pretending. You can feel when truth wants out. It starts as a whisper in your chest, a knot in your stomach. The moment you hear something false, it reacts. That's your conscience begging you not to settle. But most people push it down. They choose silence because silence feels safer. They'd rather choke on the truth than speak it and face the storm. But the storm is where you grow. It's where you find out who you really are. Anyone can smile when everything's calm. But it takes something dark and fearless to speak truth into chaos. There's a reason the truth makes people uncomfortable. It exposes the lies they've built their identity around. It forces them to see what they've ignored. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending. That's why truth demands a voice. It's not content with being understood quietly. It wants to be declared, shouted, lived. It doesn't care who believes it or who gets hurt by it. It only cares that it's free. People spend their lives searching for meaning, for clarity, for purpose, and it's right there in truth. But truth without voice is wasted. It's like fire trapped in glass, beautiful, but useless. To live with truth means to speak it, even when your throat burns, even when you stand alone. Because the truth isn't meant to be comfortable. It's meant to wake you up. It's meant to strip away every layer of illusion until all that's left is what's real. And what's real doesn't need permission to be spoken. Silence feeds regret. It doesn't come all at once, no. It creeps in slow, quiet, disguised as peace. You tell yourself it's better not to speak, better not to act, better not to cause waves. You call it maturity, patience, control. You convince yourself you're doing the right thing by holding back. But deep down, you feel it. The itch of words unsaid. The weight of moments you didn't take. Silence feels safe in the moment, but it ages like poison. It seeps into your bones until one day you realize you've built a life full of things you should have done, but never did.